for the third walkthrough for our Kaleidoscope exhibit. We had a really nice turnout and a beautiful gallery. If we could just make this out, it would be awesome. Because it looks like it's meant to be a gallery. And all of the work was curated and arranged very nicely by Dale and her team, and hung as well Bob and his team. It's just, we've got a gallery store going, so I mean, it's really, thank you, Connie. So, and her team too. And then we have food coming up, so it's going to be a nice evening. And so, what we have today is Todd Burroughs. He's from Atelier School in Royal Oak, and he's done a lot of jurying over the years and has a lot of good experience. And he came through and has awarded our ribbons for all of our shows. So he's going to go through and talk about the work, and I'm sure if you have questions, you can direct them to Todd and his lovely assistant. Who's that? So with that,
great, thanks. All right, thank you guys for coming out and making this part of your Cinco de Mayo. I want to talk a little bit about myself and a little bit about how I jury. So, as I was saying, I'm the founder of the Atelier School of Art in Royal Oak. Prior to setting up that art school, taught drawing at CC, taught at BBAC, taught in museums, art centers around the world. Teaching has always been an essential part of my own studio practice based on my own education experience in Chicago a long time ago. I didn't want to say the number, but it's been a while here. But I've always thought that there's an obligation that comes with knowledge to share it and spread it. And that's sort of the philosophy behind why I teach. Love to talk about why I jury. Like what you guys are doing here today is where that practice of whether you're alone in your studio making artwork or making artwork in a community, like gets out and does what it is meant to do, right? It evokes meaningful experiences for people. And one of the things that I feel is essential to talk about at the beginning of the featured show is the process of how those awards are given. And I will tell you, like, my philosophy or my approach to jurying is backwards from a lot of what I hear from other jurors, in that I go through a show and I make a list of the pieces that I feel I want to prioritize. That I feel that there's something important here for people to see. So the idea that sometimes people say, oh, I was thrown out of a show, or I didn't get into a show, or like, didn't win a ribbon, or what have you. Like, and it's not for me, it's not a subtractive process, right? It's a process of saying, ooh, this is a great example of craftsmanship or object building. This is a great example of personal voice for an artist. Or this is a really creative use of this material. There's great novelty and invention in this. So sometimes pieces will hit on multiple levels at one moment, and sometimes one just is exemplary in some of those categories. But with the show here today, we've got 10 honorable mentions, a Juror's Choice Award, and first, second, and third place. So we've got 14 awards we were going to give out. The prioritizing of that, was probably about twice as long. So the most difficult part of jurying, for me, is to say, I feel this piece needs to be seen. There's some great creative moment in here. There's some great object building in here. There's something that I'd love people to see, but I can't put a ribbon on it to point attention to it. So work is the pieces that have ribbons on them are pieces that I feel like I'd love for you to linger and spend time around. I would love for you to linger and spend time with those pieces without ribbons too. Like there's so much exemplary work here. So I just want to congratulate Brighton Art Guild for that, first of all, before we do the walk. So kudos to you guys. And with that said, do we want to walk through and
your choice. You can go by ribbons or you can go by gallery.
let's go by gallery. Let's start with the object.
Okay.
All right, cool. So, for my own art making, that's all right. I've worked in a wide variety of 2D materials, painting, drawing, fresco, stained glass. And so object making is something that, working with three-dimensional objects is something that I don't have a lot of experience making, but I do love it. Right? So what I found interesting about this was, the movement into the piece with these sort of concentric circles, bringing the viewer further and further in, and really clever. So that's something to see is that using these relatively flat planes, letting them sort of move around and give it, it's a really nice way to sort of draw. So congratulations. Thank you. So for the honorable mention, Ron's piece here, each material I believe has this language for what it's almost like what it wants to be, right? Like, so Tim's photography is, for me as a viewer, about capturing a moment, right? So having an art form that allows you to kind of be present and sort of really notice the world around you. So I thought the capturing of this on that foggy day, just at that moment, was a great use of medium that can really only do what this is doing. So I thought it was a great photo. So I don't know if Ron's here, but he is.
Not yet.
But all right.
We don't know for sure. He got hit in the head with one of his bowls last night. So.
Oh no.
Oh, it is.
He was turning bowls with, so he may or may not.
Oh.
So he's okay.
Okay. All right. So Connie Stover. So beautiful encaustic, and I paint encaustic myself, and it is a beautiful, unique material, unlike anything else in between sculpture and painting and cooking. I think is how I find it. But I love what is implied, kind of what's there and what's masked by like the density. And I don't know, are these things or are those?
Can I just tell you what
I
it
would love
is?
to know.
So I'm an abstract artist, so a friend of mine who collaborated with me on this does laser cut wood blocks. So we took a photograph of one of my abstracts. He cut the wood block. I inked the wood block on tissue paper
Okay.
in different colors and all kinds. And then I embedded them in different layers in the encaustic. So it's mine and then his wood block and then mine again. So
I love it. And then on the top, did you go in and incise that with the,
Oh, yes.
the needle?
yeah.
It's beautiful. I mean, like, I think the process of, encaustic, kind of thinking and working in these layers and kind of the push and pull, I think you have a very mature hand.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you very much.
So what I found really interesting about Rosemary's composition was that it works from really far away. There's a really beautiful sense of rhythm to it. But as you get closer to it, there's quieter and quieter things to discover. And I'd like people to sort of spend a little bit of time looking at sort of the big gestural part of it. But as you get up close to it, there's a whole other world happening with the print of like the very subtle green on the gray. It almost is not there, but it kind of, for me, it sort of evokes like a moment of like discovery, you know, for a viewer, which is why I want people to spend time with it. And that. Alright. So both of these pieces, like this one and the one over there, I was going back and forth between them. So they're both like really strong pieces. Why I eventually came to the ribbon on this one was, you know, when I first came to the piece, I was struck by the balance of, you know, density and open space and how that sort of accelerates movement through there. Like I found both of those pieces to have a really dynamic, you know, really almost like eddies of color and movement through them, you know. So for this, just as I wandered through the pieces, you know, again throughout the gallery, you know, thinking, okay, what do I feel is really important for people to see? What do I feel is really important for people to pause and sort of understand was how well you built in movement into this dynamic composition. Like, you know, these little tiny bits, like kind of accelerating down, and it almost creates sort of a spiral into it. I don't know if that's intended, but it's a beautiful piece. So well done and congratulations. And it's here. No Virginia. All right, so Virginia, what I wanted people to spend time with was sort of from an object making point of view. Like I said, like when I jury work, I usually look at three components. You know, the object making in terms of how well did the artist handle the material? Are they like demonstrating expertise in that? You know, their personal voice and, you know, the creative work that they're doing with those other two tools. So for me, the piece stands on those three legs. And I thought this was a beautiful example of object making. If you kind of spend time with it and imagine that you're the artist rendering that, you can see there's a lot of dedication to craft it. So it's well worth pausing. And is Laura here? Hey, Laura. Great piece.
Thank you.
All right. So, what I wanted people to spend time with Laura's piece with is to, again, understand the object making of it because it's reverse painted on glass, right? So if I understand what it is, you can't really see what it is until the very end. You're kind of building from the front back, right? And it is a beautiful example of, you know, someone taking like time to really plot out the piece. I imagine there's a lot of planning that goes into what goes when. So just the labor of love of the time spent doing it, but also it's just a really nice painting too. Like there's beautiful movement to it. I love how you broke color in there, so you can see these colors happening at the same time. And then it's a really like unusual in a good way like piece. This, I think it's well worth spending some time like in front of Laura's piece and trying to understand what that would have been like to make it. So you did a great job on it. So congratulations. time over the table for this one, but you can pick up a snack on the way. But is Maureen here? Okay, so Maureen Ray, this piece, and if you spend some time with it, there's a whole little universe happening in this. Like we hear, like sometimes people talk about like the universe in a teacup. This kind of that kind of same spot for me. So, you know, I think that this is a piece that brings the viewer into the artist world, right? And the fact that it happens on such an intimate scale is that, you know, it's well worth spending some time thinking with it and trying to step into, you know, what it would be like making that piece.
Unfortunately not.
Okay. Well, that's total rock star. She won about your show. Right, so, all right. This is another artist who I kept coming back to both pieces, and you know, other piece here, and you know, like I said, like the three things I look for, just as my own sort of creed for journey artwork is, you know, is it a beautiful object? I mean, is it made like the best it can be made? Is there a narrative, or is there a creative use of that voice? And has that artist kind of, you know, made something that is distinctly in their voice? And this hit all three of those criteria beautifully for me. So for me, like this is a piece that is a very like you know, a very convincing world kind of exists in how she is making her paintings. And you know, as I kept cycling through the studio or the gallery, you know, I kept coming back to it, and you know, I was so impressed by how much she was able to communicate just with gesture and this, you know, so well worth spending time. Okay, and Lisa. Yeah, Lisa. I met earlier. Hey,
Yes.
before the prize, just so you guys know, there was no money exchanged in this. So, so Lisa, it's a beautiful piece, and you know it hits on all three of those criteria for me, right? I think that you did a really, really interesting thing by, you know, including this texture in the foreground and diminishing it as you make that kind of, in a way, taking that idea of atmospheric perspective, right? Where things are more clearly defined, closer to a viewer, become more ephemeral as they move back. I thought the use of, you know, including more fiber in the foreground and reducing as you went back was a really clever way of utilizing that sort of traditional tool that artists have, you know, and you did a great job on it. So congratulations. The piece on top is, and what really struck me this is the very convincing world that this artist created. Like it's sort of one of the things I talk with, you know, my painting students about is that when you establish a universe, that universe has got its own sort of internal logic. And I loved how he was able to, just by the selection of different rhythms in paper, create a really convincing world where it's windswept tree exists, but it's existing just because of like the interplay of pattern and rhythm in the papers. I think he did a really interesting set of pieces, so I would encourage people to spend time looking at those. I think they're beautiful. Is Rocco here? Okay, all right. So our third place winner was Rocco, and actually the most difficult decision once I got it down to the pieces that were gonna get ribbons, like the getting down to the ribbon pieces is where most of the work is. That is the hardest part of it. And then the second most difficult part of it was choosing between this and the piece directly across the hall. They both have this quality that invites the viewer into kind of an intimate exploration, right? So like what I loved about this piece is that it's kind of a bold use of what a lot of times is seen as like a really delicate, ephemeral medium. So I thought that was a really clever surprise in how he handled the watercolor. But you know, as I spent more time with it, there was more and more to dig into. There was more to find. So it's almost like if he's fishing, that he caught my eye from across the gallery and like kind of reeled it in and reeled it in and reeled it in, and all the way up to my nose, almost touching the paper. You know, there's something to discover. So if you kind of spend some time, you know, lingering with it, there's like beautiful rhythms and patterns, and like his choice of where he's flashing those little flashes of color, I think are really sophisticated, really beautiful. So great job.
And the ribbon match is so beautiful.
That was a big part of it too. I was like, what color ribbon? Yeah, the red would have flashed. So it's fine. Okay. All right. And then is Beverly. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. So this I thought was really beautiful and again a surprising use of material, right? It kind of in a way like truck clothes. The guy paints with those little blocks of color. Like he was a hyper realist painter who lost the ability to hold a paintbrush. So he developed this style of little blocks of color where he assembles it. And I thought this sort of evoked that same sort of idea of kind of like putting together these little pieces of color, these little bits of, and something that feels very natural and real, but so
There's
just love that.
different colors in there.
I can see, yeah, there's a lot of work that went into this. So again, it's object making as well, but just your color choices in the eyes, I thought were really well thought and well executed. So great job. You're wrapping up the show for us. So, all right. So this would be a piece that I found, both technically made beautifully, right? I mean, in terms of like how you handle the paint on it, but I also found it like surprisingly like dynamic, right? Because a lot of times, when we think of dynamic sort of movement, it's because of how things contrast one another. A lot of times it's light against dark, warm against cold. You were able to create a lot of movement and a lot of rhythm using like these sort of compacted elements, which I thought was a really clever use of your color choices on here. So I think the paint handling is beautiful. I'd spend some time looking at how she was laying that down and imagine trying to step into her shoes in front of this canvas and imagine those choices being made in time, but as the object itself goes, I think it was a really sophisticated, really surprising use of a sort of compacted palette and compacted value range creates dynamic. So
that's it. I think you guys can eat if you want, or if you've got questions, I'll be around for a while.
I thought for sure you would give this one an award. I like it.
Yeah, I don't know what it's made of.
I started noticing that she didn't make that. She bought that.
Wow.
But still, I like the eyes. They sparkle.
They do, yeah. Yes, they do.
I like your piece, Don.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
It's really interesting, and I can just picture you painting every little part of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, thank you, thank you. Yeah,
Very cool.
tried to make little tiny people and
It's very a lot going on there.
thank you.
Yeah. She said that, and then I turned around and went, "Oh, a lot going on over there." That's good.
How many of those do you this one, so you can have that. Did you put? Another one out, or leave them here for a minute, or? You know, she was painting full time. Yeah. She started. I've actually had the pleasure of making papers.
Guys, remember, continue to not touch. I'll be right back. Stay right on.
So, like, and it's like, object making, part of it is, I can see.
The idea was the birds were helping us get released, but yeah, that's, you know, but that, you know, I can see what you're saying. So, integrate.
If I were to contribute to, hopefully that would be helpful or real.
Oh, I have to ask, but I mean, you know.
Well, I just joined this newsletter, so I'm just starting to. Very nice, very nice.
Nice space for this. Great.
she said,